So hello, welcome back to the Journeying Beyond Yourself Summit. I am so excited today. In fact, I was so excited that we almost didn't get to press record because Lisa and I have been sitting here talking and talking and talking. We have with us today the amazing Lisa Barnett. She is a phenomenon, and you're in for a treat today. Lisa Barnett is the international best-selling author of From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life, and the Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records. She's also the founder of the Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom. You have taught, I know, thousands of students worldwide now, Lisa, to access their personal and soul wisdom and guidance. You work directly with the Akashic record keepers. You have over 20 years of developing this and spiritual healing. And you teach these simple tools, which basically empower individuals to find greater fulfillment, greater happiness, greater abundance, and greater health. I know that, you're just a phenomenon, Lisa. You help to align, you help people to align with their soul path. And there's so much we can talk about, but I know you talk about soul contracts and karmas and vows that we might have made, in other lifetimes. And this is profound work. And you and I have been sitting here talking about how we really think this work is becoming more and more and more relevant and more embraced in today's world. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us in this summit. I know people are going to learn so much from you. And there is so much I'd love to talk with you about. We need a full day with Lisa. We don't have a full day, but I think the sensible place to start is by telling us, what on earth are the Akashic records? For those who haven't heard that term, but maybe familiar with areas of work, I think it's going to really help to sort of have a unified view of what that is. And secondly, I'd love for you to tell us how you got involved in the Akashic records. What's your story?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sally. I am so excited to be here with everybody. And I was just realizing, I was in Melbourne at the big Body, Mind, Spirit Expo just a year and a half ago, something. I'm so sorry I missed you and didn't know you yet.
Yes, pre-COVID, that was probably one of the last trips we could have.
That's right. It was like October of the fall before that fateful March. But anyway, let me jump in and give you my version of what the Akashic records are. So every person has an Akashic record, and what it is a recording of your soul's journey throughout time. So if you imagine that from the moment you individuated from source, you had a nice little, GoPro camera strapped to your forehead, and every night you'd upload everything you did, all that video up to the cloud. And over your whole lifetime, if you wanted to go back and say, oh, what was I like when I was 10 or when I was a baby, or maybe when you're my age, you want to see what you were like when you were 40 or 50, right? And you can just, check into the cloud, download the images and find out what was going on with you and what you were experiencing. Well, honestly, that's exactly what your Akashic records are. They are an energetic recording of everything you have ever been or done here on Earth and in other places and dimensions and other realms. So we start to look at that, which is stored in the quantum field of source. When I asked the record keepers many, many years ago, like, where is the Akashic records? People are like, is it in your body? Where is it? Is it in the earth? And they said, no, we're part of the information arm of source. And so we're stored in source energy, or what we're now coming to call more often the quantum field. So most of us have come to this beautiful blue-green planet hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times because we love it here. And we often get kind of stuck in patterns of energy that we want to come back and unravel and understand and learn more about as a beautiful, ancient, and wise soul. So all of this information is stored for you in the Akashic field.
Wow. Thank you for that understanding. I love the way you've made it modern with the GoPro and the cloud. So how on earth, is there, I'd love to know, I don't know this, the history of who named it the Akashic Records. Why is it called the Akashic Records? And then how did you become involved? What's the history of it?
Right. So the Akash is a Sanskrit word which translates to sky or ether.
Okay.
Hence, the cloud is appropriate.
Yeah.
And it was written about, honestly, there are parts in the Bible where they talk about the book of life. And I believe this is what they're referring to. So 1,000+ years ago, they were referring to this recording of your soul's journey, as well as in many spiritual writings. But honestly, I don't know that I could or anyone could date it back to a first time it was spoken about or written about. But yes, the Sanskrit is connected to the East Indian tradition, and that's where quite a bit of that information was written.
Yeah, amazing. And what's your story with the Akashic Records? When did you first come across it, and how did you know that this was your gift, was to commune with the Akashic guides? And let's get to that as well.
Sure. Well, my story's a little convoluted because I was awake, I would say, at around 3 years old. So I realized I was trapped in a body. And I said to my mother, I want to go back. Really, I don't want to do this. and Mom couldn't send me back at that point. And so they just all struggled along with me and my weirdness. But I literally, I started studying when I was about 14 years old because I was kind of conscious that there was so much more than this body, especially that little baby body, right? And so I started to study as soon as I could read adult books. So for me, that was, high school, around 14-ish. And I minored in philosophy in university, and I eventually went on realizing that I had really come to be a healer. And so I started to study healing. And it was very interesting because at that point, my healer teacher would say, after you heal someone, after you do healing, you're moving old energy out, you're creating a void. And so go up to the Akashic records and ask the record keepers to fill your client up with the appropriate energy for them now that you've created space. But you cannot go into the records. They're off limits. So you go up to the gate and you say, please, can my client have some energy? And I would see it come in, whatever waterfalls, energy, sparkles, whatever it was coming in. But I believed her that you could not go into the Akashic records. And the aside is that when I asked the record keepers about this quite a few years later, they said that they had pulled the Akashic field away from the planet for about 1,000 years. So during the Dark Ages, which is, about 1000 AD, people were misusing the information they could access in the Akashic records to win wars, find people's gold, right? They were misusing it for their own benefit. And so the beings of light that keep the records, the Akashic record keepers, said, well, we'll raise that vibration so most people can no longer access that information.
Yeah.
So humanity lost their ability, their more general ability to access that information.
Yeah.
So for me, what happened was I could see them, feel them, connect to them. And so they started talking to me, but I didn't know who was talking to me. So that went on for almost 5 years. before one of my actually wise clients said to me, I think your record keepers are, giving us information. And I thought, I'm not supposed to go in there. That's not right. So kind of that old energy. But once I started actually going, oh, if you're talking to me, I can talk back, right? I can have the conversation. You're calling on me. They said that it was time now. That was, as we're moving into this new energy, which really started back in about the 60s, right? As we talk about the dawning of the age of Aquarius, if you are old enough to remember the musical Hair and the song, The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius, we're moving and we're still just getting into the tip of the iceberg of the age of Aquarius, because these ages are huge. They're hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So it's time.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you with that, when you mentioned that they'd moved the records to a higher vibration so that, it was more difficult. You had to be in a higher vibration, closer to love, closer to oneness to access them. Do you think either, I suppose there's two scenarios, because I feel that more and more people are becoming aware of them and starting to communicate and starting to have an interest, seeking out people like yourself who can guide them there. I feel like that. Do you think it's because as a populace, we are starting to rise our vibration up, or are they bringing it down to us so we can?
I would say it's a little of both.
Okay.
So I believe that really recently, over the last, well, it's not been that long, maybe 20 years. Some of it started back in the 60s. Some of it, has been we've been waking up and becoming more spiritual again. And so over these many, years since the 60s and 80s, the humanity is raising their vibration. So for so long, we were really all stuck in fear and victimhood and, blame and shame. And those are, 10, 20, 30 out of 1,000, right? So we finally moved up to around 200 on a scale of 0 to 1,000. And if you ever want to research more of that, Dr. David Hawkins did an amazing book called Power versus Force, and he talks all about these levels and layers. And so we've kind of passed over the line of demarcation was right around 200 when we went from, anger and fear and shame into willingness, which is somewhere right around 200. Willingness to maybe, entertain a new idea. And I believe that we've been bouncing around that 200, 250, and certainly many people are moving up to love, which is 500. But even if you're up into 300, it's a very different energy than down there with blame and shame at 30, right?
Yeah.
So we are transforming as a huge group of humanity. We are starting to wake up. I see, feel, notice all the time the consciousness, the awareness, the willingness to try something new, to listen to a summit, to try a healing modality, to set an intention, right? It doesn't have to be mind-blowing, earth-shattering stuff we're doing. It can be, I'm going to drop into my heart and feel more compassion for those people around me instead of get angry at them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I believe that this time, the year that we've just had, was great training ground for us to see. It's just presented us with opportunities to step up to the mark, to really, where there's division, and there's a lot of division, well, it's an opportunity to reach out a little bit more and for us to think, how can we bridge that gap more? And when people are entering a time of fear of the unknown and angst and concerns about health and loved ones and all the things we've seen this past year, it's also an opportunity to step up and create those skills that allow us to kind of deal with that more with more love and compassion and surrender and belief and those higher vibrational things. A quick question for you, because it's just come to me. It might be outside the realm of this chat, perhaps, but what on earth, if on the whole we are rising up, you know, energetically, what has been going on the last year? Because it's such a refreshing conversation, because there's an awful lot of conversations going on about the levels of fear and anxiety and concern and worry are increasing.
Right. Absolutely. So, what the record keepers are saying, because they're actually going to, I think, describe it a little bit differently than they have before. They're saying some of it is balance. Again, it's about balance. And so there's higher vibration in general, and the earth herself is awakening and raising her vibration. So this beautiful, rock planet is a sentient being and is awakening. So literally the vibration under our feet, which means that so many of us feel it as tired or exhausted, or sometimes easier or faster, a lot of faster moving energy, and life feels like it's moving so much faster. But what it's doing is it's giving us the opportunity to see right in our face, right, what's going on. So when that happens, a lot of the challenges show up to be seen. So we could go, how do I want to react to that? Do I want to yell back? Do I want to, try compassion? Do I want to say, can I help you? Is there something I could do to make that better? Right? So I believe it is the way that we awaken, because we have to get what's been buried for hundreds or even thousands of years, what's been suppressed and held down. And even so many of us spend half of our lives, or most of our lives, stuffing our emotions. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that anger. I don't want to feel that hurt. I'm just going to ignore it, right? We stuff it down, and then it can turn into that dis-ease in the body, right? So different forms of illnesses might show up. But as we slow down a little, which we've had the opportunity, because many of us are not commuting long distances like we might have been doing just a year ago, to slow down, to think, to feel, to be a little more sensitive. What could I do? How am I a part of this? Again, it's like moving from blame to understanding and helping other people as you help yourself. So this is the way I really believe that we heal, that we grow as a soul.
Yes.
And that's what, the record keepers often say, is that your soul came here to grow, to learn and to grow.
Yes. So that was a beautiful segue into, because this summit is all about how we can expand beyond the limits that we've placed on ourselves currently. So what I'd really like to get out of your wisdom and the keeper's wisdom is the Akashic Records is all very good and very interesting, but how does it help us? Because I know this is what you do day in, day out with people, but if you could explain us a little bit how knowing your records, being able to travel there or be guided and access it, how does it help us to get to the next level of where we want to be? Because I know it can be profound shifts, lifetime shifts.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of kind of simple thoughts, honestly, is that when we can access our records and ask about maybe who you've been and what you've done in other lifetimes, it can be tremendously validating. So imagine that you want to be a speaker, or you want to be a healer, but we think, or you want to write a book or something that feels like, oh, other people do that, right? And then you open your records and the record keepers say, you've written many books in other lifetimes, and you've been a profound healer in many different lifetimes, and you have been the part of the mystery schools of old, and you have been, and to see these images, to have a beautiful, pure, unconditional, loving being of light tell you this, and you feel it in your body,
Mm,
It makes you cry. You just feel so moved to tears. You're like, oh my God, it's true. It's truth. And we feel it.
yeah.
That's a shift that can change your life and happen in an instant, in a moment.
Mm,
And so that's one simple way, right? Just by receiving the validation that what you want to do is truly aligned to your soul's path.
mm, mm.
And as we get this kind of support, and we can ask information about, say, what kind of soul contract do I have with my, maybe my significant partner? Do I have a soul contract? Are we from the same soul family? Is
Mm.
our contract complete? I have quite a few people who come to me for readings. I think when they're ready to get divorced, they're like, am I going to get in trouble? Is my soul contract complete? I don't think my husband is doing his work anymore, kind of thing. And literally we go in the records, we ask the record keepers, what kind of soul contract is it? Has it been completed? What else is there to learn? Is there another step to take? And we literally get very specific information about many of these things, or all of these questions we can ask and receive answers for.
So it's true higher guidance that we can
Yes.
learn to access, or have somebody access for us on our behalf. And I know that you do this day in, day out. So anybody that's gripped by this conversation, we'll have all of your details, and please just contact Lisa. We can, we're only getting to cover a tiny tip of the iceberg in this. And I really want to get you. Lisa has offered to do for us a tiny bit of what she does with people, which is a kind of experience of the healings that you do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's very beautiful, because over the years, well, I knew I was a healer when I was very young, but then really when I got involved with the Akashic Records, there was so much information. It was like, wow. So it was very much information based. And I think for many people, it's very information based, which of course it is. But then many years in, the record keeper said to me, we'd like to have you start a school. And I, again, being the little tiny, insecure human that I am, I said, why me? Right? Who am I? Why would you ask me? And they said, because you were one of us. You at one point in the very beginning were an Akashic record keeper. You were a being of light. And then you went on to your journey, but you have that connection, and you're a healer. And we want people to be able to heal through this phenomenal quantum field of the Akashic records, and transform past life pain, childhood pain, to be able to move forward with greater ease. And so that has been really part of my passion, just always feeling that the healing is so profound that we can do. I'll bring everybody into the Akashic Records energy as a group together. And then we will see what's up for the group, right? To do some energy healing. And if you're interested, just think, yes, I'd like that, please. And if you're not, you're just like, oh, that's okay, I'll pass. And so if you're interested, great. You'll just jump in with ease just by thinking yes. And we'll do some group healing around, feels like, oh, there's always so many things in a group. I'm like, well, I'm getting something around the heart. I'm getting to do some past life clearing about being seen and stepping out more fully, and about really, being able to be, feel and be secure and more fully who we truly are, and stop hiding behind, that little self that says, who am I? I don't deserve this, right? And so it's so helpful for all of us as we go forward, creating the life we desire, our heart and soul desires,
Yeah.
to be able to stand in that strength, that power, those gifts. You're an infinite and wise soul, and you truly have come to share your gifts and wisdom. So holding them back and not, keeping them hidden is not helping you or anyone around you. So
Yeah, such wise words. So, for clarity for everybody listening, everybody can experience and really have as part of them the healing that you're about to provide for us, simply by deciding that they want to be a part of it. So if they're interested to receive what you're about to do for us, and you can of course access the records and for lots of people, for a crowd, and then of course talk into that group consciousness, we just have to think a clear yes, I'm kind of in.
That's it, just as simple as that.
Wonderful.